Welcome to everyone to our Handmade Arcade's very first virtual class. We're very excited to be here today with Valerie Bundy from the Pittsburgh Glass Center. My name is Trisha Brancalini Foley. I'm the Executive Director of Handmade Arcade, and we're also very excited to launch our virtual marketplace today. I hope that everyone takes the time. We are open for 9 days to check out the site at handmadearcade.org, shop, browse through the marketplace, support local makers, support Pittsburgh's creative economy, and sign up for some more classes. We've got demo and panel discussions all week. There are 6 of them highlighting screen printing, ceramics, working with natural elements. We have a Meet the Maker happy hour and a bath and body demo and panelist. So feel free to sign up for that. Get to know them local makers a little bit better. And thank you for joining us today. I'm gonna mute and I'm gonna pass things off to Valerie, and she's gonna teach you all how to make a mosaic. And have a wonderful day.
Thanks, Trisha. Hi, I'm Valerie. I'm Program Director at Pittsburgh Glass Center, and I'm really excited to be here with all of you today. Like I said, I'm in the screen with my face that's labeled Valerie Bundy, and then Pittsburgh Glass Center has a screen down here that has all of our materials in it. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about what Mosaic is. I'll share my screen, and then we'll kind of get into the making portion of it. And while we're all making together, I'll talk a little bit more about Pittsburgh Glass Center, and I'll share my screen again, kind of say what we're doing, what you can do with us, what you can make, what you can buy. And if you have any questions, Trisha is going to take those in the chat. If you want to ask any questions or need me to repeat anything or show anything, again, I can do that. But just so you guys can see, I'll pin this video to you once we get really started, but I just grabbed a plate to put my glass in as the other additional material that I grabbed. And then I have my table covered with some, just some craft paper to just work cleanly on my table. So I'm gonna start by sharing my screen and just talk a little bit about what Mosaic is. And I hope that everybody can see this. I apologize, everybody. Glass art, we teach it, we create it, we promote it, and we support those who make it, which I think is really important to mention as we're here with Handmade Arcade, really thinking about our makers in the city. We employ lots of glass artists, and we're really proud to be able to promote their work, and I appreciate you guys dealing with me for that moment. So mosaics are, as an art form, have been around for thousands of years, which I think is really cool. They were first discovered in ancient Mesopotamia. Small pieces of tiles were found on a temple over 4,000 years ago. We have on here, I added some pictures of mosaics that are found in the Met collection. You can see that they're just an artwork made up of tiny parts to create an image, a pattern, or a decorative motif. This is a floor panel, this top left one here from the 2nd century in Rome. This one here in the middle is a glass panel from the 1st century AD. These are some tesserae, which are the small parts that we're going to use. Anything that's the small parts that make up a mosaic are called tesserae. So these are some ancient ones from the 15th century down to like the Tiffany Company in the 1800s making beautiful mosaics. And then also at PGC, mosaics are one of the great things that we are able to do with our community and other organizations. And it's a really great collaborative project. We've done some at schools. You can see in some windows where kids design these beautiful mosaics and work together to create these artworks for their schools. We just installed this one here down in the bottom middle in Washington, Greene County at Trinity Elementary. Or we've done them with our community on Martin Luther King Day. We are going to use people came in and got to contribute, make their own little mosaic that we're going to add to a larger mosaic for our little library outside of our building. And then, modern mosaics can be found on everything from a park bench to a flower pot to windows. You might see on the front of our building, the words, our sign, Pittsburgh Glass Center, is done in a mosaic. We have a local artist, Divya Davis, has made this beautiful window that you can find at Pittsburgh Glass Center on the left. We have artists that make this sunflower is Sarah Cohen. this art house at the bottom. You know, you can make a whole house into a mosaic and it becomes a beautiful artwork by using these little glass pieces. This is Vanessa Germain's house in Homewood, and I've included some other artists on here. This bottom ones, you know, have used tires or a tree stump and used glass pieces and made them into artworks just with mosaics. And I think this one in the middle, I think is a funny, a kind of, you know, nod to what's happening in 2020. This is an artist in Chicago who named Jim Bacher, who fills potholes in the street with glass and makes them into these beautiful mosaics. And this is a 2020 rendition, which includes a roll of toilet paper. And then for us also at the Glass Center, you may have purchased our kit from us to do this activity with us today. We started these program, I think back in, July was the first time we were able to launch. So we've been switching themes. We have our holiday themes now, our mosaic kits. We also have some fusing options that are also available, or our stepping stone is this top one in the right corner. We also will be switching over and adding some new kits in February. We're going to switch to doing some more demos as well. So also things that you can do with us at the Glass Center. And I so apologize again for my PowerPoint vanishing. But okay, so I'm gonna put over to my screen here, and we're going to talk about how to actually do our mosaic. So you'll see the things that I have again are, I have my star shape, I have my glass, I have my craft stick or popsicle stick, and I have my sealant, which is my glue, which is we use a silicone, like a silicone base, and it's clear because we are using our clear plexiglass backers. So the first thing you're going to want to do, and again, please ask any questions, or if I'm going too fast, please feel free to put them in the chat. Not seeing the table. I think I pinned this. Should I spotlight this video? Let's see.
Let's spotlight your hands. Do you want me to do
that? Did that work for you?
Yeah, that's great.
Okay. So so what I'm going to do first is I'm going to pour out my glass onto a plate or a bowl or anything, just so you can kind of see all of the pieces that you have. And another trick that we like to use at the Glass Center is using our craft stick, so you can kind of sort through your pieces this way. These are glass pieces, so they are sharp on the edges. And another thing to do when you find a piece you want to use, we always like to say kind of pinch it like a hamburger. You know, the edges are going to be sharp, so you want to just be careful and hold it by the flat sides like a hamburger. And you can use your craft stick to kind of sort through those. Some people like to maybe sort through whatever colors you have and kind of put those together, your solids or your transparents. You kind of organize your plate however you want. That's for your glass. And then with your backer, so the shape that you have, you can see that I have the star shape. We call these backers or bases. And I'm going to take off, the first thing I'm going to do is going to take off the paper on one side. So I have a nice surface to work on. I'm just going to get rid of that paper. And then you can leave this will give you your side to work on. So if you have, I'm trying to think if there's anything that would be different shapes. We have a unicorn, so you could decide which way you want the unicorn to go. I think our holiday shapes are kind of, doesn't really matter. But you are gonna wanna leave the paper on the back side while you are gluing and while you're gonna grout. And I'm gonna show you how to do the gluing portion next. So the next thing you're gonna do is with your glue, again, I said we use this silicone glue. You can see mine's not brand new anymore. I've used it a few times, but you are gonna need to open it. So when you take off the lid, you'll have if you have a new one, you'll have the metal cap in there. You'll just take the pointy part of your white cap and you'll just stick it in there to make sure that it's open. And that'll pop right out, and then you have your glue. And then when you're not using your glue, it is kind of stinky also. When you're not using your glue, you want to make sure that the cap is nice and sealed tight. And then for your mosaics, you can do this in a couple of different ways. Some people like to they'll find shapes of glass that fill your whole shape first, or you can find just a few pieces that you think fit. So this is the fun part about mosaics, where it's trying to figure out from all the glass pieces that you have, where they're gonna fit onto your backer. And you do this sort of just like a puzzle. You wanna look for pieces, and maybe you find one that you like. And I'll point out too that each piece does have a hole that you can use to hang up. You can make it like an ornament, or like a sun catcher in the window. So if you want the hole to be able to, if you want to be able to hang things at the end of this, you'll want to not cover this with glass. If you don't mind, if you want to use it a coaster, or you're going to display it in a different way, you can cover the hole up. If you have a square, I think some of our squares have holes, so it can either be a diamond or a square, depending on how you want to orient your piece. But then once you figure out which way it's going to go, you just sort of go through your glass and you can start adding pieces to your shape. I think sometimes it might be easy to start in some thinner spots. That kind of looks maybe nice, like it might cover up that hole. And then what you're going to do is, again, you can do this in a couple of different ways. You can fill your whole shape first, and then some people like to take a picture so they have that on their phone. So when they are adding in their glue, they can remember exactly where their pieces are. Or you can do it kind of a piece at a time, depending on how you work. That's the cool thing about mosaics is, you know, they're each going to be individuals. Everyone kind of does it in a different way, and they're all going to be unique to you. I think I'm going to try to fill in this top around the yellow, over this yellow top piece. I'm thinking I want to make my star yellow. So I'm just looking for pieces, and again, I'm digging with my popsicle stick through my glass. I'm just looking for pieces that look like they're going to fit together. That might look nice, and maybe I want to go from yellow to, maybe I want to start going down into some orange. And you'll notice on here that I am leaving some space in between each piece of glass. You want to make sure, that's another trick where your craft stick comes in handy, is you'll want to make sure that you have about the thickness of the popsicle stick or the craft stick in between the pieces of glass. And that's going to be where your grout comes in. So you don't want them touching each other, because the glue we're going to use is just to kind of hold the pieces down. The grout is really what really makes the piece, and I'll show you an example here. Really makes the piece and holds all the glass together. Sort of like when you have like a tile backsplash in your kitchen or your bathroom, the grout is really what finishes and holds all the work together. So this is an example that we have. This was one of our circle backers, and you can see that this artist chose to make a little bird here, but you can really see all of the grout in between. And the gray also really helps to kind of complete the look of the work. Artists can choose to do, there are different colors of grout, so artists really can choose the color of grout to kind of complete their look. It becomes part of the work as well. Okay, so to use my glue, again, you're gonna just make sure, I'm gonna use my craft stick also, so I don't get this on my hand. And you just need a little bit of glue, just a little bit to hold your glass pieces on. So once you decide where you're gonna have a few, and again, you guys might wanna take some more time, but I'm just gonna show you how to do this today. So you wanna spread a little bit of glue on there, and then—
Valerie, somebody's having trouble getting paper off the tree. Do you have any suggestions for them?
Oh, yeah, it is kind of tricky. I will say that if you just I used my nail to kind of dig into the side. It will come off. I know it's kind of like attached to there. So we actually made these out of plexiglass. We had one of our team actually cuts these shapes out for us. I will say it is kind of tricky. It will come off. I know I started mine early, so I wasn't struggling with it. But yeah, I just kind of use my nail. You can see, and it will, I don't know if that's helpful to you, but maybe start on a different edge. But it should come off. And if it's not working on one side, maybe try the other. I apologize for that. So yeah, so I'm just kind of taking my glass, I'm using a little bit of glue, and you can really glue, or you can really use any glue for mosaics. Like if you had some Elmer's glue, you could use that. We like the silicone one for these kits because again, we use the plexiglass and we wanted it to be clear when you shine through. So I'm just trying to fit my glass on, and maybe I gave myself a little bit of a challenge here because I stuck this piece in here and I don't really remember where I did it. So that's where taking a photo can be helpful also. Taking some time. That's the other thing about mosaics is that they can take a lot of time or they can take a little bit of time depending on how you work as an artist. And there's really no wrong way to do it, which is great. So the tricks are you want to make sure that you have that popsicle stick width in between your pieces, and you also want to make sure that nothing is sticking out over the edge. You really want to stay within the shape so you don't have any glass pieces hanging out. So the grout will help hold the pieces, and then also you're not going to hurt your hands by having any glass stick out.
Valerie, I'm just going to interrupt really quickly and tell everyone, I think I forgot to mention this. We are recording this, and the show, the class will be on the Handmade Arcade website probably by tomorrow. So if you fall behind and you don't finish in the same manner, like as quickly as Valerie does, and you want to take more time, that's okay. Keep working. You don't have to keep up. And all of this will be on the website tomorrow, so you can come back and take a look if you need to. So I just wanted to sort of take the pressure off of anyone who feels like they've got to keep up. You can take your time and do it at your own pace.
That's great. Thanks, Trisha, for sharing that. Yeah, that's what's really wonderful about mosaics. It's kind of like doing a puzzle. You can, spend some time doing it and maybe you want to walk away, or you don't like the way a piece is looking, so you want to remove it and find another piece. It's really great. This type of activity where you can kind of do it at your own pace, and everything's going to, be depending on what type of maker you are. And you can see, so I'm just kind of sticking in those pieces, and you can see that with this glue, you can kind of wiggle them around a little bit still while they're holding. So that's why I'm going to show you guys how to grout, but you guys won't be able to grout your pieces for a few hours. We usually say to let your glue dry for 24 hours, just to make sure your pieces are nice and stay and nice and snug and they don't rip off when you go to grout. So I'm going to show you another example of that. But you can see, so you just want to make sure that you're filling in your pieces as you go, finding the shapes that you like. They kind of fit in. Add a little bit of glue. Again, it doesn't need to be a lot of glue. And then just kind of working your shape. And you can see how it's kind of filling in the shape. Also, if some of you bought, there are another tool that you could have bought with us are called our glass nippers. I'm just going to make sure I close up my glue so it doesn't dry. That's a trick too. You want to make sure you close your glue nice and tight when you're not using it so it doesn't dry. If you did buy nippers and you're looking for a specific shape, you want to make sure that you're always wearing safety glasses, which I put on, which my hands are pinned so you can't see that I put my glasses on, but you want to make sure that you put glasses on. And if you're looking for a really specific shape, say to use your tool, you can cut them. Say this orange piece that I have here is a little bit too big. So you want to use your glass nippers, and you can do this. You can either put your nippers, face them down, or sometimes we tell children to face your eyeballs up. And just be careful when you're nipping glass, especially if you're working in like a carpeted area. Sometimes pieces of glass can kind of shoot off, so you really want to be careful, pay attention to where that goes. But so if I really wanted a different shape or a really specific piece or a smaller shape, you can kind of just decide, like this piece I think is a little bit big to fit in here. I don't mind that shape, but I'm thinking I want to cut it in half. And this is how our mosaic artists really get those specific shapes that they want, is they're able to cut the glass. Not every kit has, if you didn't buy the nippers, you don't need the nippers, but if you have nippers and you want to know how to use them, I'm just showing you that. So I'm just gonna put my piece in between these two blades, and I'm just gonna press and be able to cut to a more shape that I want. Perhaps I didn't like, see that cut right in half. Maybe I want to cut it a little bit smaller. Maybe I don't like this kind of pointy end here, so I'm just going to kind of pinch in between there again. And you can see those pieces, little tiny shards of glass might shoot off, so you just want to be careful with those. And now I like this piece maybe a little bit better in there. I'm going to find it fit how I wanted him to go in there. And then I'm going to add a little bit of glue. Does anybody have any questions or concerns as we're working on this?
Someone asked, do I have to take the paper off or can I leave the paper on?
I would suggest you can leave the paper on if you'd like, but it is, these are plexiglass. So when you take the paper off, what's really nice about these, and I'll take this off a little bit from my back so you can see, is that when you're finished, you'll be able to see through on both sides. If you don't mind, and if you want the paper on, it'll just have a solid back. So here's an example of one that's like finished. This is a bell, and it still has the paper on. So it will just be solid on the back. But if you want to be able to see through both sides, which is kind of the cool thing about having the plexi, but also if you leave the paper on, that's also your choice. There are mosaics. We also do them on wood backers. Like this one, for example, is on a wooden backer. So it has just a solid back, so you can't see through the side. So it just depends on how what you want your final project to look like.
So there are two other things that were said. Joyce said that she traced her pattern on paper and is laying it out on there, which I thought was a great idea.
That is a great idea.
Another, Julie asked, do you recommend gluing as you go or waiting until the end? Which sort of, I guess, goes along with Joyce's idea of laying it out.
Yeah, I say that it kind of depends on the type of artist or maker that you are. For this demo, typically when I do them, like for example, for this bell that I'm going to show us how to grout on, I lay out all of my pieces first. So when you do that, you can just to kind of make sure that you know what's happening. So you can lay out all of your pieces, and I'll kind of show you on here, because sometimes you might find a piece that you think fits really well, and then when you're actually working on it and you get it to the end, maybe you have a piece or two that you're like, oh, maybe that piece doesn't really fit there, and you find a better piece. And then once you have, I'll just kind of throw some on here for you guys to see. So once you have all of your pieces on, it is easy. Like I said, you could take a picture on your cell phone and then work from that in case things move around. But it is kind of easy once you have your pieces on here to sort of just pick up one and kind of glue it, put your glue on there and push it back down. I find that you can sometimes just sometimes they'll stick to your fingers. And that's the nice thing about this glue too, is you will be able to wiggle it around. So if you can't find one in there, if you can't fit one there, you might be able to wiggle it around so it fits, and then you can double check. That would be my suggestion. Is I typically like to fill out the whole piece, but other people kind of work as they go. It kind of depends on how you want to do it.
And then someone asked, how do we add the small beads?
Oh, great. Yeah, so I don't have an example of a Marini with me. For some reason that did not come in my bag that was prepped for me. But so some of you should have a small, I guess that's a small piece of glass that looks like a bead or a circle. So those can be either incorporated into your design, or you can glue them on after you grout. So if you have a Christmas tree, for example, and you want to use those balls as the ornaments, those can be fit in between your pieces. So if you had one, maybe I'll use my little shard of glass. If you had a piece, say I wanted to use that in between, you can do that right in between your glass, or at the end after you grout, you can use the glue to glue them on top. Does that make sense?
Nope, it doesn't. There's no follow-up. So hopefully,
okay.
if you need more clarification, yes, that makes sense.
Great. Yay, great. Yeah, so it kind of depends on how you want to do it. So some of them have, there's like circles, and then some of them have like the kind of the bobble shaped. So there's a little different ways. So you can do either incorporate those into your design just like you would with the glass, or glue them on top when you're finished after you grout and it dries. Great. So is everybody working along with us here? Just kind of adding glue, putting your pieces down. Yeah. Great. So then again, you sort of kind of can spend a lot of time on this or making it really your own. Maybe you don't like the way that those pieces work, so maybe I'll try to find a better piece, since I just kind of picked pieces fast to throw on here. Maybe like that. And sometimes you get to the ends, and those are the pieces that are maybe a little bit trickier because you have to find a piece that's really specific to a shape. But that's what's kind of great about mosaics, is it's going to be unique, it's going to be different. It's kind of fun, like a puzzle, trying to figure out what piece works the best to make the best shape. Sometimes you can see on this bell example, you know, you need to find little tiny pieces to fit around the edge, or if you don't have the nippers, trying to figure out the big pieces that'll fit there, like this bell shape. Again, artists can use them in different ways, like on this one with the bird, cut kind of different shapes to make this little bird. Great. So as we're sort of working here, if nobody has any questions, I might talk a little bit more about Pittsburgh Glass Center. Or if anyone has any things that they want to share or ideas. Great, so we can all sort of work together here. And I'm going to talk a little bit about Pittsburgh Glass Center. I'm hoping my PowerPoint shares again. Again, I apologize for that. But if you have any questions, please ask in the chat and Trisha will stop me.
So I'm gonna just add really quickly, when you are doing mosaics, we've got some makers who are participating in the marketplace who do things like take pieces of broken glass or pieces of broken plates and make mosaics, make tabletops, make jewelry, make some really cool items. So like, what are some things, like what are some other ideas? We're making an ornament today.
Yeah.
What are some other ideas that you would have for folks at home that they could try and different and new things with this?
Yeah, that's great. I mean, that's one of the things that's really awesome about mosaics is you really can mosaic anything. Like I said, you don't have to use the specific glue that we gave you. You can use Elmer's glue, and you might have leftover glass pieces as well. And one of the things that we like to tell people is that you can really make anything, maybe something trash that you might throw away, into a work of art. So you can mosaic like a yogurt cup, for example, and make it into a planter. Stepping stones are really great for the garden. You can make little vases, any sort of things that you might get rid of. You can use these glass pieces, or you can find scrap glass. And then also, it doesn't always, like mosaics don't always have to be glass. You can include sort of anything with that. You can have shells or ceramic tiles. That's another thing. You know, Construction Junction has lots of tiles that you can use and break up and add into your mosaic. So you can really make a really wonderful artwork out of just pieces together. You can make your own shapes, and sort of the more that you do it, the better you'll get at it and making these beautiful artworks.
It might be a fun thing for the folks who are following along at home today to get a little more into this, and they could purchase different kits from the Pittsburgh Glass Center.
Yeah.
Or
yeah.
they could, you know, we've got some time at home that we're going to have to spend these next couple of weeks. So this is a great time to pick up a new skill and, you know, hone in on some new and new fun things, maybe make some holiday gifts.
Yeah, exactly. yeah, so we'll have some kits, and then we'll be launching some new kits. There's some fusing kits as well if you want to try your hand at a different type of glass making, where you can fuse. I'm just gonna, can you everyone see my screen again? Great. So I just wanted to mention that, you know, like Pittsburgh, before it was actually known as the Steel City, Pittsburgh was actually known as the Glass City. We're located on the three rivers, which gave easy access to raw materials like sand, and the rivers and coal, and the rivers to kind of transport glass. And the first two glass factories, the west of Allegheny Mountains, both opened up in the region here in 1797, where they made windows and bottles. So Pittsburgh has a rich history in glass making. And by 1902, we've had over 150 glass factories in Western Pennsylvania. By 1920s, this area was producing over 80% of the nation's glass. And today, Pittsburgh is no longer home to these hundreds of factories, but traditional glass making techniques are really enjoying a resurgence in the city. And Pittsburgh is really building on this glass making history, and we're emerging as one of the nation's top contemporary glass facilities. You know, at Pittsburgh Glass Center, anybody can take a class or a workshop or explore a gallery, enjoy live demos. We have students and teachers from all around the world, and we've also been exploring some of virtual programming like this that we're doing today. I wanted to share that we do have our contemporary glass gallery that is open and free to visit. This slide down here in the middle is our current exhibition called The United. The United explores, has like 13 artists from around the world focusing on the topic of immigration. And we've also put some of these resources online. Like you can, if you can't make it to Pittsburgh Glass Center during this time, we also have virtual tours on our website, some gallery guides that you can check out. You can hear from the artists as well. And that's up running through the end of January, and in February we're going to have a new show on neon and plasma, which is going to be really exciting to see. I'll kind of run through quickly, and then I'll kind of run through quickly some other things that we have there at the Glass Center and what you can do, and then we'll talk about grouting our mosaics. So we have our hot shop, which is one of our best designed and well-equipped glass blowing studios. Artists work with the molten glass. We're working with cold glass today, but artists work with molten glass. You know, typically on the right, we would have like large demos and anybody can kind of see a glass blowing demonstration. But the picture kind of in the middle is where we're at right now. We're doing a lot of virtual things that you can kind of check out with us. And some examples of things that people make in the hot shop are on this slide. You can use different tools to sculpt or blow glass. This one on the bottom right is some Hello Kitties. This is in our current exhibition. This one in the top middle is our Penn Fairmount line of handmade glassware blown at Pittsburgh Glass Center that you can purchase. Other things that you can do now, we've kind of switched over to doing small group activities at Pittsburgh Glass Center. So switching from blowing glass, which doesn't allow you to wear your mask all the time, to go hot glass sculpting, where you can pull a flower or make a paperweight, make a pumpkin paperweight, or we also have a holiday tree. You can also do a virtual tour or glass blowing demonstration in our hot shop. We have our flame shop, which is also where artists work with fire. They use rods, cold rods, and they heat it up over this tabletop torch, and they're able to bend, twist, and sculpt the glass, and they can make things like earrings or small scale sculptures or marbles. Some things that you can do with us in our small group activities with your family. Or you can make a wine stopper or some swizzle sticks, pendants, or magnets. These are things that you can do with us now. So we're calling these our small group activities, our pod workshops. So asking groups to kind of stay with their small group or people that they have been quarantining with or hanging out with during these times. We also have our kiln shop, which is the kiln or the flat shop, which is the studio that we are working with today, working with flat cold glass. Artists can use different types of glass like granulars, powders, enamels. This is where you can do stained glass or mosaic or some sort of fusing as well. Some things that you can do with us are these sun catchers at the top. This is fusing, or you can make a dish or a candle holder. We have some stained glass workshops as well, where you can make a stained glass sun catcher or a little stained glass critter. We also have a cold shop at the Glass Center. We're not offering any cold shop classes, but this is a state-of-the-art studio with lots of tools for finishing, polishing, or like using a Dremel, a lathe, a saw, sandblaster kind of textures that you can add to your glass as well. Or some artists do use this as a studio where they can make very beautiful sculptures with special glue. I just wanted to quickly mention that we also have our programs for kids. Glassmaking, we say, isn't only for adults. You know, if you're young as middle school, you kind of have the opportunity to explore, spend time in each studio. We have an after-school program called SIO2, where kids can spend 10 to 12 weeks learning how to make glass, and we do typically show their work. This is some work that's made from students in our gallery as well, and we have pivoted during this time to doing some private lessons with kids. So if you're interested, oh, I see a mention about, are the 8-week classes have started? No, so we aren't doing any of the 8-week classes for the time being. Unfortunately, we've switched to just sort of these smaller one-off, like private with your family or close friends workshops at the moment. And then because, you know, we're here for Handmade Arcade, I wanted to make sure that we mentioned that, you know, we do have local artists, and we have our own line of Penn Fairmont. So this picture at the top is some of our handmade ornaments and some glassware. We just launched our shop, but Trisha mentioned that it's easy. You can get right through the Handmade Arcade website and support local artists. So we have our handmade ornaments, some other holiday items, glassware. So these are some of our local artists at the bottom that we sell through our store as well. And we can do that in person and online, which is really exciting. You can still come check us out in person, or mention our line called Penn Fairmont, which is this handmade tableware, which is really beautiful. It makes great gifts, holiday gifts, or, you know, gifts for yourself as well. So supporting these local artists, and then you can always find us on all of our social. We'd love to see what you guys made with us today. If you want to tag us at Pittsburgh Glass Center, we'd really appreciate that as well. So I'm going to stop. Go ahead.
Cut in real quick and say, if you go to the Handmade Arcade Marketplace, and you can search either under category, under glass, and both the Pittsburgh Glass Center and the Penn Fairmont pages are there, and you link through to their websites. So you're not purchasing directly from Handmade Arcade, you're purchasing directly from them, but you can also see some other local glass makers who are selling at the event. And so that's kind of cool. You can see some different things, and I definitely am going to be purchasing some of those ornaments for some holiday.
They're beautiful.
They're really, I mean, it's all so lovely.
Yeah, and if you are up to it, you are able to come to our shop and see in person as well. Yeah, thank you, Trisha, for saying that. So I'm going to stop sharing that again, and you can see my hands again. But yeah, we're really excited to be here for this opportunity to showcase, and we have local artists that work with us and that are showing their work in our store and online, and also our Penn Fairmont line is our specific Pittsburgh Glass Center line. Okay, so that's my kind of spiel about Pittsburgh Glass Center, and I'm going to show you guys while we're working on this. The next step would be grouting your artwork. Again, you're not going to want to follow along, like you're not going to want to grout right now. You're going to want to do this later. We usually say at least an hour, up to 24 hours. You really want your glass pieces to be set. It is really complicated to try to grout once your pieces pop off. So you really want to make sure that they're nice and set. And I'm going to use my bell example because I did this one yesterday, and all of my pieces are nice and set. You can give it a little wiggle test to make sure nothing is moving around. Everything is nice and solid. Double check. If you did happen to have a piece that popped off during your wiggle test, you can use some super glue, let that dry to kind of fill it in. Just to double check that all of my pieces are kind of this craft stick width apart, and then also nothing is hanging out over the edge. Okay, so then in your kits, you should have a container of grout. And this is gonna be more grout than you need, but we thought it was nice to give you more. And you can mix it right in this container as well. And we're also gonna use your craft stick. This comes the triple duty with this craft stick. If you have a glove, you can wear it. You don't have to wear gloves. I'm just gonna stick mine on as a good example, but you also don't have to wear them. And all you'll need for your grout is some water. And you're gonna wanna add this in about a tablespoon at a time. And you're looking for the consistency of about brownie batter. You wanna be able to spread it around, but you don't want it to be too runny. So you just wanna add in a little bit of water at a time. Just until you get the right consistency. So you see that tablespoon really started to make it kind of powdery, but I really want to be able to spread it around like brownie batter. I'm going to add a little bit more water. And I will say that when you're doing this, it can be a little bit messy, so that's why I have the paper on my table. You may choose to do it outside. Grout is really just like a kind of a concrete type mixture. It's looking pretty good. You just want to be careful that you don't want to dump any of this down your sink because it will harden. So if you have kids doing this, just keep an eye on them. You don't throw any down your sink. You really just want to throw anything away. This is a little bit thick. I may just add a little bit more water. You really don't want it to be too runny. And if you happen to over add some water, you can always sort of like tilt out the side to drain off any extra water. And just kind of toss that as well. Okay, so I think this is pretty good consistency. It's about brownie batter. It's a little bit thick, but not too thick. A little bit runny, but not too runny. And then what you're gonna do is once you have you're gonna have your glass, your mosaic ready to go, and you're gonna, this is the part that's always funny to me, is you're gonna completely cover up all of that beautiful work that you just did by pouring your grout over top of it. And you're gonna really cover the whole piece, really trying to mush your grout in between all of those pieces so it fills all the gaps. So you can use your craft stick. If you have a glove, you can use your finger and really mush it in there so you can feel. And like I said, you'll have more grout than you need for this. So feel free to kind of cover him. Get it all in there. Try to cover as much as you can. I'm just kind of gonna squish some of it around. And yeah, this is the part that's always kind of funny because all this beautiful work you just did, you're gonna cover it back up. And spread it around, really making sure that you're getting into all of the crevices in between each of those glass pieces. And you should start to see, once you start to cover it, you should start to see your glass kind of reappearing a little bit. I also like to try to scrape off the edges. This is why we suggest leaving the back paper on too, so you have the grout, any grout on there you can just take off. You can see this is starting to, I'm just gonna double check, make sure I'm mushing any grout in there as well.
Valerie, someone asked if you can add color to the grout.
Ooh, that's an interesting question. I know that grout will come in different colors. I don't know if you would add, is there a specific material you're thinking of adding?
See what she responds. Could you add glitter?
Oh, you know, you probably could add glitter. I don't know how well it would show up, but it might It's worth a shot. That's a good question. I haven't done that before. That would be a really interesting thing. That would be really nice on the trees and stuff. It kind of look like tinsel.
So
I
grout,
would say it's
but
worth
grout does
experimenting
come in
with.
different colors, so you could buy, if you wanted to do something different, you can just get different colors.
Yeah, so grout comes in, it'll come in like white to dark colors. Like I said, artists will kind of pick what, depending on their work, pick what kind of grout really like will accentuate their piece the most. But glitter, I love glitter. I love that idea. I would love to see if you try it. Please send us pictures.
She doesn't know what material she would work to add color, but someone else asked, is this the same sort of grout that you could get at Home Depot for tile?
It sure is. Yep, exactly.
So there are
Usually-
different colors, because I've seen like red and all different colors. So
yeah, I'm sure that they definitely make it. I would check out the store before maybe adding things, but yeah, that's awesome. That'd be a great way to make this project really your own, for sure. And so the next thing that you're gonna want to do is I'll try for my next time is adding some glitter myself, actually. The next thing you want to do is once you have your grout on there and you let it sit a little bit, you want to try to get most of that off, but you can see how you can still see the grout on the glass pieces. It's not clean yet, but you want to let it sit a little bit so the grout can kind of stay in between the pieces. Like you're really trying to get this grout to stay nice and hard, but you're going to take newspaper, or you can use a paper towel or a rag, but we find that newspaper is this really nice soft texture, nice and soft, that'll start to help you just kind of maybe wrap it around your finger a little bit, and then you just kind of start wiping that excess grout off of your glass. And you can see how that really starts to clean it up and get off that extra grout. You really want to make sure that you're not digging out any of the grout in between your pieces, but just kind of wiping off that extra grout. And once you have it on once you have used up that piece, you want to maybe find a nice new clean piece of newspaper, so you're not just wiping more grout on there. And you'll just kind of start to wipe off any of that extra grout. You can see that really starts to clean it up. And the longer you let it set, you can see it maybe coming off my edges a little bit, so I should let it sit a little bit longer. Kind of wipe off your pieces. And that really gets the grout off. You can see that newspaper just pulls it right off. You want to make sure your grout is staying nice and flat and staying in between your pieces. If somehow you, while you're wiping off your glass, you rip out a little bit of grout from in between, you'll just want to refill with your extra grout. And just wipe. And after you get to maybe this stage, you want to let it sit a little bit longer. You can always go back in again with your newspaper, wiping it off. And that glass, I promise, will come clean again. And it'll be nice and sparkly and shiny. So yeah, you'll just kind of keep cleaning it off. And then also, if you have your hole, if you have your hole, while you're doing this, you want to use a toothpick, flip it around to the back. You can see right where your hole is, and that'll just push that grout out, so you remember to have that hole as well. You can see that's getting nice and clean. Any other grouting questions while I still have you here for a few minutes? Again, you're going to want to make sure your pieces are completely set and glued before you even start your grouting process. Make sure you don't throw any of the grout down the sink. You're just going to want to toss it. Or if you had some extra glass left over, you can try mosaic a yogurt cup or something else as well to see what kind of fun things you can make.
Valerie, how long will the grout last? Like if you put the container, the lid back on and it's wet in there, how long can you reuse it for something new?
Not very long.
Not very long.
It does harden. pretty quickly. So you kind of have to use it. I would say when you're ready to grout, you're going to want to grout. It's not going to keep, unfortunately. So wait until you're ready. That's a good point too. Yeah, and then you just kind of clean it up, and then you're gonna have a beautiful mosaic.
Lovely. Somebody asked, should textured glass be avoided to prevent problems cleaning grout? I have lots of scrap from making foiled stained glass projects.
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah, the textured glass is very difficult to grout. It can be done, but it is very difficult because it does get stuck into all of those textures. So if you have a piece, you can sometimes flip them over so the texture is on, if it's only textured on the one side, but it is really difficult to clean up, and they do kind of get stuck into those holes.
Great. That's good to know.
Yeah. Just gonna keep cleaning. And these, again, too, these kits are really fun for the holidays. They make great gifts as well. This video, like Trisha said, is going to exist on the Handmade Arcade. Hopefully she cuts out my PowerPoint problems, but so they can always watch this video again for any tips. You know, we have expert artists at the Glass Center. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to us as well.
The Glass Center is going to be doing a Facebook Live. I believe let me look at my calendar. I think it's this Friday. Yeah, Friday, December 4th at noon. If you log on to your Facebook account and you go to either the Handmade Arcade's Facebook page or the Pittsburgh Glass Center's Facebook page, we're going to simulcast a holiday hot jam live event. Where do you want to? You probably know better than I do, Valerie, what exactly that means.
Yeah, so typically the first Friday of every month we celebrate our hot jam, which has live glass blowing demonstrations. So because of COVID, we have switched to doing these virtually. So we will have our artists doing a live glass blowing demonstration in the studio, which is actually really cool because you can get kind of closer to the action with the camera and really see what they're making. It is going to be holiday themed. I think it's going to be a Rudolph, I believe, but don't quote me on that.
I think it is a Rudolph.
Okay, good.
I just looked at the description. It's a Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer, unless something has changed since I got that a couple days ago. There's another question. Jody says, we have wanted to do a mosaic design on our kitchen backsplash for years. This class has spurred us on to do it. That's exciting.
Great. That is exciting.
Do you have any special tips for backsplash work?
Ooh, I specifically don't, but if you want to reach out, I can get you in contact with our kiln shop coordinator who might have some specific tips for backsplashes.
What email address?
Yes, if you want to do, mine is vbundy@pittsburghglasscenter.org. I will get you connected.
Is it spelled out, Pittsburgh Glass Center, the whole?
It sure is, yeah.
Okay, I'm going to put it in the chat. Thank you, Valerie.
Yeah, I will get you connected with an expert that can actually give you some tips for that. I've not done a backsplash. Perfect.
That's ambitious. I'd love to, Jody, if you do that, I would love to see a picture of it. Tag Pittsburgh Glass Center and Handmade Arcade on Instagram. That sounds like,
that sounds great.
That sounds really fun. And I'd like to encourage everyone, when you finish these up, to take some pictures, tag both Handmade Arcade and the Pittsburgh Glass Center on Instagram, and let other folks know what you made today with us. This awesome our first ever virtual class. I'm so excited.
This is the first one.
This is Handmade. This is the first one of the virtual marketplace. So I'm not going to fib. I purposefully scheduled you guys first because I knew you had done a few of these.
Okay.
And I felt confident that we'd get it right together. So.
I know. And then my PowerPoint fell. I'm sorry.
It's okay. The way of the world.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, so the artist was, I'm seeing that question about the art house, is Vanessa Germain. You can Google that one and you'll find where she is.
Is there anything else that we need to let the folks know, or?
I really appreciate you guys doing this with us today, and for Handmade Arcade having us. This is really great, and I hope to see all of your awesome glass artworks. Yeah.
Yeah, so don't forget, we're gonna put this back online on live if you want to watch it again or buy a glass kit and then share the how-to with a family or friend who you purchased it for. You can come back to handmadearcade.org, and don't forget to shop the virtual market and support Pittsburgh creative economy this holiday season, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for this hour, and thank you so much, Valerie.
Yay, thank you
It was
for
a
being
wonderful
here.
time.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll see you guys. Hopefully we'll see everybody in person in 2021.
Oh, good. I'm glad it was fun for you. Thanks for saying that, everyone.
Thank you, Valerie, so much.
Yeah, thanks,
Bye-bye.
Trisha. Bye, everyone.